Yo, what's good, everybody? Today we're gonna talk about and shine the spotlight on the movie Good Boy, directed by Ben Leonberg. Now, a lot of horror movies these days are really hit or miss, and I feel like they have good concepts, but the execution is just not there. I felt like that with Together early this year. Bring Her Back, I did not, or Bring Him Back or something, whatever. I did not like that movie. I thought it was like really, tropey. This movie could have fell so flat, but the execution was there for most of the movie. So I do think it's worth a watch. So if you're just watching the video, see if you go watch it before I go into spoilers. I do think it's worth a watch. Go see it. Bring your friend, bring your pup, and have a good time. Now, again, so the execution of this movie is really trying to nail, again, the perspective of this horror film, this horror thing from the perspective of a dog. And luckily, they didn't just put like a GoPro on the dog's back and, show everything from the dog's eyes. Like, no, they still use cinematography. They still use like storytelling techniques to convey what the dog was feeling, to convey an atmosphere and things like that. That was really good. You had a lot of angles where you're following the dog at like knee level, so homes and stuff feel that much bigger. They feel much more like the dog could get into like smaller crevices and stuff like that. So a lot of these shots, you felt like you just felt more horror. You felt a little bit more smaller, and you felt like a dog. Now, was the dog a good actor? The dog was a phenomenal actor. Yeah, the way they got that dog to move and look at things and stuff like that, like it felt like a human character, and that's what was so good about it. Now, my one critique about it and why I couldn't give it like a 4 or 5 stars is I said that the movie was executed well, and I do think it was executed well for the most part. There are times where the horror feels a little gimmicky because they reuse something. They reuse the like the dream technique, the dream scene technique a few times. You know what I mean? So at a certain time, as you're watching the movie, right, like the dog is like exploring, trying to follow like the sense and the atmosphere of like these creepy things, trying to see what's going on. And then just when you feel like something scary was gonna happen, like in whatever the dog was sensing, I won't spoil too much, would appear, and then he'll like wake up from a dream. And they used it, I think, like 3 or 4 times. So at a certain point in the movie where you're waiting for this threat to actualize, it doesn't, and it leaves you feeling like, okay, when the dog is actually going through these creepy scenes or finding creepy crevices or like tracking these ghost-like figure and stuff like that, you are just sitting there waiting for him to wake up. So it kind of sucked out the tension and the horror that you would feel. I'd say maybe for the first like 30 minutes of the movie, 35, 40 minutes of the movie. There's a big section of the movie where you're like, all right, this is just not gonna, it's not a real threat. Like, he's gonna wake up and then whatever. They do pick it back up at the end as things, start to climax and stuff like that. And the movie is a shorter movie. I think it's like an hour and 12 minutes, hour and 17 minutes, something like that. But, it probably could have served to be even shorter because there are parts of the movie where I feel like, okay, they reuse certain things. Maybe they were running out of things that you're trying to stretch it out to hit a certain mark or whatnot. But again, the movie is saved by the human element. Like there's a lot of movies where, like in horror movies, you have a pet, and this kind of inverses it. So it's like instead of like, oh, it's my pet, I gotta save him. It's like it's my human, I gotta save him. So that like, you seeing if the dog is gonna be able to save the human and like get through to him and stuff like that, it's really worth watching. The cinematography is also dope. Like I said, like sometimes you're at eye level, like knee level, because of the dog. You got that perspective. Also, just the way they use like lighting and shadows and stuff like that. Like you never really see the owner's face, and it always kind of like leaves you in a sense of like you never know when the owner's gonna bug out, right? Because like the story is going through like addiction and also like kind of like possession and stuff like that. So you never know if the owner is the owner or if the owner is overcome by like his addiction or like possession or whatnot. And it's really good. I like that part of the movie. There's honestly not too much more to say about the movie. Again, I do recommend it. Go with your friend, go with your dog, or whatever, and I think you'll have a good time. I do think it's one of the better horror movies that came out this year. Felt like Together just didn't land for me. I felt like Bring Him Back was just also not that good. I don't know why I got the hype, but this one is definitely solid, and I feel like it's in my letterbox review. I said, when your dog doesn't quite do the trick you want it to do, but it's a good boy all around and you love him, so you just give him the treat anyway. That's kind of how I feel about the movie. It's executed well enough, and yeah, good boy. All right, I'm gonna see you on the next one. All right, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm also an artist. Link in the bio if you want to follow my Instagram page. Do photography and videography. Trying to be director one day. All right, peace.